Pacific Air Forces, so PACAF. So first I understand that some of you are really new to the Air Force in terms you just got to your first base and then you're in process and you came here. So I will try my best as I go through the briefing to keep that in mind, that you may not understand or know what I say when I say it. So I'll try to explain things a little bit better. And then there's some, like a lieutenant colonel that I see out there that's probably been around for a while, and so you know what I'm saying. But I have been the Pacific Air Force's Comptroller for about 6 months now. And one of the great parts about this part of the job is being able to get around and go talk to everybody. So I've been able to go out to some base visits within my own command and talk to the Comptroller Squadron. And then this is my first opportunity to come and speak to the schoolhouse, and so I'm very excited about doing that. We'll get started here in just a minute, but just to give you a brief background about me, and then I'm going to go into some more detail as we get through the briefing. So I've been in the Air Force almost 25 years now. In January, it'll be 25 years. I've worked at every level of the Air Force. So I've worked at the wing level, where many of you are. I've worked at the major command level. I've actually worked at 4 major commands, where I saw a few of you are working at. And then I've also worked at the Pentagon at the Air Staff level, and I saw on the roster that there's a few folks that are at the Pentagon as well. I have had the opportunity to deploy twice. Once I'll talk a little bit more in detail about as I get into my briefing, where when I was in Washington, D.C., I got to just go over to another office in Washington, D.C. and work with the office that was responsible for the detainees down at Guantanamo Bay. And then I actually deployed to Afghanistan back in 2004. I've had the opportunity to command 2 squadrons, one a Comptroller Squadron and one a Training Support Squadron, and I will talk to you a little bit more about that. And then now I'm in this role here as the Major Command Comptroller. I would say that I've not had a bad assignment out of all the places that I've been. I think I'm on my 10th or 11th assignment now. I will certainly tell you that there's obviously some locations that are more desirable than other locations. But I would say even in those locations, they were phenomenal, because the camaraderie of those smaller units just make all the difference in the world when you're at a place that is just not as desirable as others. So with that, we will get started. Next slide, please. So the first thing that I think is important as I talk to you is understanding the mission that you're supporting. So many of you are just starting out, and I think one of the things that has helped here to me as I've gone through my career is when I get to a new place, I really want to understand what it is that I'm having to support. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Pacific Air Forces and the things that we do over in the Pacific, and give you a feel for some of the things that are going on in that part of the world. And then I think you need to develop your plan and begin your journey. So every one of you has a different story and a reason why you came into the Air Force. And so you're going to develop a plan that's going to guide you through your career depending upon what your goals and your aspirations are. And then you're going to go along on that journey. And so I'll talk to you about the journey that I've been on. I explain to you some of the different jobs that I've held and the responsibilities that I've had. And then I'll end with some tips. And I will tell you now that those things aren't rocket science. And I would say that the majority of you, as you've come along in your life, have probably learned and done and heard a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about. But there are certainly things that held true to me as I was going through my career, and I think helped make me successful and get to the point that I'm at today. Next slide, please. So this is the PACAF area of responsibility. So what my boss, General Carlisle, he's a 4-star general officer, what he likes to say is that his span of control goes all the way from Hollywood, California to Bollywood, India, and as far south as the penguins down in the Antarctica to the polar bears up near the Arctic Circle. So that wide range of area is what he is responsible for as the Pacific Air Force's commander. And then as the comptroller to him and his financial advisor, I advise him often on all things in that area of responsibility. Next slide, please. So that's him in the middle there. He is the commander of Pacific Air Forces. And he really has multiple hats that he wears. I'm going to talk about 2 of them. So the first one on the right there, he works directly for the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. He is one of 10 major commands, and you see all the other major commands that are listed there on the right. He is one of those 10, and each of those major commands have a different responsibility or mission that they do for the Air Force. And we are in charge of all the Pacific Air Forces, and he's in charge of all the Pacific Airmen throughout the Pacific. And then on the left side there, that is Admiral Locklear, and he is the commander of U.S. Pacific Command. So he is responsible for all of the forces that are in that area of the world. So all of the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Army, and the Air Force. He is responsible for all of those forces. So in General Carlisle's role, my boss, he is responsible for all of the air assets. So anytime that we have a conflict or we go to war in that part of the country, he's in charge of all of the Air Force people, and then he's also in charge of all of the air assets in order to conduct any type of a campaign. Next slide, please. So why are we here? So when we look at this part of the world, I won't talk to you about each one of them. You can see there. But just some of the key points are we are 60% of the world's population are in that part of the world. We have 5 of 10 of the world's largest economies. So the U.S., China, Japan, Russia, and India are all over there. And then we've got 8 of 10 of the busiest air and sea routes in that part of the world. So it's very important that we make sure that we have stability over in that part of the world for the stability of the entire globe, to be honest with you. Next slide, please. And so, given the importance of the Asia-Pacific region, it's vital. Our job over there is vital. And we have to provide that security and that stability in that part of the world. So some of the things that we do over there are what you see on the slide. So the HADR, that's very critical to one of the things that we do over there. That's humanitarian assistance, disaster relief. So 70% of the world's natural disasters happen in that part of the world. And we are there to be able to support that. So that picture that you see there is Sendai Airport right after the earthquake and the tsunami that hit Japan. And we were there to provide disaster relief to that area over there to help those people get their lives back in order. We also provide deterrence. So if you look at that bottom left picture there, that is actually a B2. So as part of our deterrence role, we have what we call theater security packages. And that's where we have rotational units, usually fighters or bombers, that will go TDY there for a period of 3, 4, 6 months. And be like a force presence in that part of the world. So we want people to know that we're postured to be able to defend that part of the world anytime we're asked to do so. And so we've got permanent party forces there. We've got the rotational forces there. And then we also want to show that we have reach back. And so that B2 is actually stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base. And as part of an exercise that we did, that aircraft flew from Whiteman Air Force Base to Korea and back. It's a 37.5-hour trip, but we want to show that even if something happens, we've got reach back in the United States that we can have a plane come and drop a bomb on target and then go back to their home station, and that's just what we do. Security cooperation is a very important part of what we do. So we want to make sure that we are partners and with our allies that we have over there. And so one of those roles is training. So that picture that you see there is actually the Idaho National Guard. So it was a training exercise where we were working on different kinds of decontamination methods. And so we like to share all of those kinds of things with our partners and our allies so that when the time comes, we have a partnership and we're able to do things together using the same types of systems, using the same types of processes. And so that's why it's important that we train like we're going to fight, and we have those types of security cooperation events that help us do that. Next slide, please. So as we look at everything that we have to do across the theater, we're fortunate that we've got some guidance to help us do that. And so that guidance starts with the president. So the president has his national security strategy, and one of the things that the president has said is our economic interests and our security interests are very, very important in that part of the world. And so we've spent a lot of time in Southwest Asia, and so now we have that rebalance to the Pacific, because the interests that we have over there are just as important as the interests that we have over in Southwest Asia. And all that trickles down to the various forms of strategic guidance that you see there, all the way to the strategy of Pacific Air Forces. And that's the strategy that my boss has delineated that we all will help him be able to support. Next slide, please. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that strategy. So starting on the right side there, that's really our end state. So that's what we need to do for our nation anytime our nation calls, is those things there on the right. The things that you see there on the left, those are what we call our core tenets. And that represents the way that we are going to apply our manpower, our money, and our resources to be able to execute whatever the nation asks us to do. And then those items that you see there in the middle, that's what he calls our lines of operation. So that's really all of the different things that our airmen are doing on a day-to-day basis in order to further the strategic goals within our command. And I won't spend a whole lot of time on them, but I'll touch through each one of them briefly as we go through the next several slides. Next slide. So the first one is theater security cooperation. So when we are looking in our theater, we are partnering with our allies, and we want to make sure that we've got access to the areas that we want to have access to. So if you think back to that wide area of responsibility, we've got certain logistical hubs that we want to make sure that we're able to get into whenever we want to get into them. Sometimes there's new islands, if you will, or new countries, if you will, that we want to be able to bed down forces in if we're asked to do that. And so you can't wait until it's time, till a conflict arises and then say, I want to go into another country. You have to be building those partnerships and those alliances as we go. And so that's one of the key things that he is really, really focused on, is building those alliances while he can. And some of those are in the form of the humanitarian assistance, as I said earlier. So one of the things that we do every Christmas is the Operation Christmas Drop in Micronesia. I think last year we dropped about 30,000 pounds of supplies and goods to over 100 countries, little islands in Micronesia, so that, to just show that we're there to help them whenever they need help. We're very focused on exercises and joint exercises, and so you may hear things like, red flag, full eagle. We probably participated in about 60 exercises a year with different countries. And so we do multilateral exercises where it's many countries participating together, and sometimes we do bilateral exercises where there's just us and another country participating in an exercise. And those are really opportunities where we can share information, share knowledge, use the same types of communications infrastructure, so that we know that we've got compatibility when the time comes and we have to operate in a crisis together. Next slide. Integrated air and missile defense. And so really that is our heart of war fighting. So when we're over in that part of the country, we have to make sure that we can contest the enemy if the enemy were to come to us. And three of the ways that we do that is through active defense, passive defense, and attack operations. So just a brief description of each of those. So active defense is really just that a limited offensive. And so some of the things that we do are patrol the waters over there with our, the Navy does a lot of that. Sometimes it's the exercises that we're participating in that shows that active defense. Sometimes it's combat air patrols that we're doing that shows that active defense. So it's not going on the true offensive front, but it's showing that we've got a presence, that we can react anytime that we need to react. Passive defense, we've got our Patriot batteries over there. That's making sure that we can reduce the probability that something bad is going to happen, and if it does, that we can minimize the effects of that bad thing that happened. And then our attack operations, we're postured with all of our fighter aircraft over there, that if anything happens, we're able to respond. And then really the command and control is the node that brings it all together. Because if we don't have good command and control, none of those other areas are gonna come out the way that we want them to. Next slide. And then the next line of operation is power projection. And so we do that through global power, global reach, and global vigilance. So global power are our fighters and our bombers. Global reach are all of our mobility assets. And then global vigilance are all of our intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets. And we really use those as a bundle, if you will, so that we can provide any type of rapid crisis response that we are asked to provide. Next slide. So here's where we are postured. We have 3 numbered Air Forces, so that's kind of the echelon right underneath the 4-star, and there's 3 of those. And then under each one of those numbered Air Forces is a series of bases, and they all have a particular function or mission that they perform. And so the first numbered Air Force there that you see is 11th Air Force, and that's made up of Eielson Air Force Base, Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Joint Base Lewis-McChord, Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam, which is where I am, and then Anderson Air Force Base. And the primary responsibility of that numbered Air Force is to defend Alaska and those key strategic nodes that you see there, particularly Anderson Air Force Base in Hawaii. Next slide. So this is 7th Air Force. They are in Korea, Osan Air Base and Kunsan Air Base in Korea, and the responsibility of that numbered Air Force is to defend South Korea, particularly against North Korea or any other threat that's in that area. Next slide. And the last numbered Air Force is 5th Air Force, and those are all of our Japan bases, Misao Air Base, Yokota Air Base, and Kadena Air Base, and they're responsible for defending Japan and our interests that we have there. Next slide. The next line of operation is Agile Flexible Command and Control. So we talked about that just a minute ago, and that's really in 2 forms. It's our relationships and it's our systems. So we want to make sure that we are compatible when we have to go fight with our allies, but not only with our allies, but with our other joint forces. So we practice that a lot in making sure that we are using the same systems, making sure that our communications up the chain and down the chain are where we need them to be. And then if something happens and that communication is contested and say the enemy takes out our communication, we have to be able to switch to another system, if you will, or to be able to communicate with the higher echelon in another manner. And those are things that we practice and that we put a lot of dollars toward to make sure that we are able to do that when we need to. Next slide. And then the last one is our resilient airmen. And so in order to do all of the things that I just talked about, it's really our airmen that do that for us, and they are that critical enabler. And so we are committed to making sure that we are professionally developing them and that we are caring for their families because they're frankly the folks that are going to get the job done when we need them to get the job done. Next slide. So that was kind of an overview of Pacific Air Forces. Before I go on, are there any questions about what we do over there? Okay, so I also talked to you about it's important that you develop your plan and then begin your journey. So next slide, please. So your plan really is your roadmap to your career. And I will tell you that everybody is different. Everybody has different aspirations and different goals. But everybody needs a roadmap in order to get to where you're trying to get to. And so you all are in the basic financial officer course now. One of the things that's critical as you're in this course now is frankly networking and getting to know each other. I will tell you that many of the folks that you see here in the room, as you continue in your career, you will see these same folks. So when you're a Comptroller Squadron Commander, you're going to have other folks in this room now that are also Comptroller Squadron Commanders. And so the relationships that you build here will carry you through your entire career. And when I came through this class, it was called something different then. It was at Shepherd Air Force then. But there was a young man in the class that is my peer today. He actually just retired, but in the same position, and he was at Air Mobility Command. And I remember sitting here in the class with him, 25 years ago. And we've been friends throughout our whole career, and we're able to call them and pick their brain on different issues that come up. And so that's why it's really key that you get to know each other and really network and form that bond and that relationship here early on. And then you're going to get a lot of help as you go throughout your career. I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. But really, you are the master, and you're the one driving your career. And one of the things to remember is it's a living document. So you may think that you want to do something next, or you want to be a particular job or be a particular grade, and then something happens and you don't get that next job. A different opportunity comes up and you get a different job. So it's a living document. It's going to be tweaked as you go throughout your career. I will tell you that the plan that I had for myself when I was sitting in your seat is that I was going to stay in the Air Force for 4 years and have 2 kids. And so I don't have any children now, and it's 25 years later. So that plan that I had for myself wasn't exactly the plan that it ended up being. And so mine got tweaked along the way due to different opportunities that came up. And quite frankly, I was having fun. And I always say, if I'm having fun, just keep doing it until I'm having fun. So I think they're going to have to kick me out one day. And then I'll end with the right plan is the one that just really suits you and suits the things that you want to do throughout your career. Next slide. And as I said, you're going to have a lot of folks that are going to be a part of that plan that you build. The first one I like to talk about is your family members. Some of you are single, some of you have family. That your family has to be a part of that roadmap. There are going to be times where they're going to have to sacrifice while you go off on a remote assignment, while you go off on a deployment, while you're in some type of a class. And really those family members have to be a part of that plan. There's times where you will sacrifice things within your career because your family has to come first at that point in time. And so you may not be able to go take that next job that requires a lot of traveling, for example, because it's time for you to be home with your children as they're going through school. So you're going to have people, your supervisors and your mentors, that are going to help you make those kinds of decisions when the time is right for you. Your peers are very important. So as I talked about your peers here, each echelon that you go up, you're going to have your peers that you're going to be calling to say, you know, how are you doing it at your base? You know, we're not doing this as well at our base, and I'm looking for some ideas on how we can do it better. That's how I've been able to improve a lot of the things that have happened in the organizations that I've been in, is just by talking to other people who have been there, done that, so to speak. And then your mentors. You're going to have mentors, and I would encourage you to get mentors as you're going through your career. And one of the things that I've learned is your mentor doesn't always have to look like yourself. So I don't always go seek out a Black female in order to get mentoring from. Sometimes my mentors are a different race, a different gender than I am. Sometimes my mentors are more senior than I am. Sometimes my mentors are my peers, and sometimes my mentors are my subordinates. So quite frequently, I will seek out some of the airmen and just say, you know, what do you think about this idea? And, you know, what do you think about the direction this is going? And I want to get your take on it. You know, what do you think about how I'm leading our organization? Are there things that you want to see differently being done? And really, when you pull all that stuff together, that helps you to be able to lead an organization the way it needs to be done, the way that you feel that it needs to be led. Because you're getting insight and injects in from up above, down below, and across the board. And then your supervisors will play a huge role in that as well. I mean, they're the ones that you work with on a day-to-day basis that really see your strengths and your weaknesses and know how to enhance your strengths and then to be able to help you with your weaknesses, as well as through your training coordinators. I think one of the things that I've seen throughout my career that we don't spend enough time on is really seeking out some of those classes that can make you better. So we really spend a lot of time on classes like this, some of the more formal classes, but at all of the Air Force bases, you have writing classes, you have speaking classes. I wish that someone would have told me about Toastmasters when I was a young lieutenant, and then I wouldn't have been as afraid to get up and speak in front of people as I was going through my career. And I would tell you, I did not really enjoy getting up and speaking in front of people until actually just my last job when I was a colonel. That was about the first time that I ever really had to do it. And so I would encourage you to not wait that long to have to get up and speak in front of people. And so participating in those kinds of events, different leadership opportunities. So you're going to have the opportunity to be the chairman of the Combined Federal Campaign for your base, the Air Force Assistance Fund. You're going to have the Company Grade Officers Council, have the opportunity to participate in those kinds of events. I would certainly encourage you to do any and all of that kind of stuff because it really helps to develop those leadership skills, those speaking skills, and your writing skills. And so one of the things that I try to do is, you know, volunteer to write articles for the base paper or volunteer to draft an email for my boss that needs to send something to his or her boss. All of those things early on give you some of those skills that you will need to be successful as you go through your career. Next slide. So this is my journey, I talked a little bit about education, and so as you all, had a bachelor's degree when I came into the Air Force, and then I got my master's degree while I was a lieutenant. I will tell you, our current Chief of Staff of the Air Force has a different vision now on master's degrees, and so it used to be that it was a mad dash, if you will, to go get your master's degree when you were a young lieutenant or a captain or a junior civilian. And the focus became trying to check that box instead of focusing on what that degree was going to be able to help you do better in your job. And so now he's changed the rules where you don't have to have a master's degree until you are a colonel, until you're coming up for promotion to colonel. And so that does a couple things. It really allows you to focus on your job and being an expert in your job while you are junior and you're growing up. And it also enables you to time it to when it's right for you. So there may be some folks that the timing is just perfect now to be able to get your master's degree. But there's other folks where the timing may not be perfect, and it may be better for you 5 or 6 or 7 years from now, and that may be the right time to get your master's degree. And so that's why the Chief of Staff changed the rules so that we're timing that when it's right for you and not making it a part of our promotion system, so that we are taking away from getting folks to really learn their jobs and to be experts in their jobs. And then I've been to all of the Comptroller schools that you can go to. So the one that you are in now, many of you, when you get to be captains, will go to financial management staff officer course. And then when you're majors, you're lieutenant colonels, or about the GS 13 level, you'll go to Defense Financial Management Comptroller School. And then all of your professional military education. So I went to Squadron Officer School in residence, and then I did Air Command and Staff College and Air War College by seminar at the bases that I happened to be stationed at the time. And then this is a laundry list of the different things that I've done throughout my career. I'll pick up on a couple of them. So I'll tell you, I've never been a base level budget officer. When I was at Hill Air Force Base, which is my first duty assignment, I went through a rotation, so we worked like 3 months in each of the areas, and we had many more areas then than we do now. So I probably did that for about a year to 2 years, and then I dabbled in budget just a little bit, and then I spent a lot of time in dispersing, what we would call dispersing now. And so I really didn't master anything in those first few years. I just kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything. And then the first budget job that I really had was when I was at Headquarters Air Combat Command. And they asked me to go be in charge of the Air Combat Command flying hour program and all of the maintenance programs for the aircraft. And so that was a huge, huge responsibility for the largest flying hour program in the entire Air Force. And I would tease at the time that the only thing I knew about budget and F-16s at that time was just how to spell F-16. But you go do what you're asked to do, and you learn that job, and you do it to the best of your ability, and that's what I did. The time that I got to learn a little bit more about some of the financial services part of our business was when I worked at the Air Force Personnel Center. There's a Comptroller office there. I was there as a captain, and I did things like the government travel card and running our audit program, and some of those other financial services types of programs that you will hear about. And then the second time that I got to work at a major command was at United States Air Forces in Europe. I was at Ramstein Air Base as the chief of all of the military pay, travel, and disbursement policy throughout all of the bases over in USAF. And then I got to be a squadron commander. And as I said, I think my time as a squadron commander was probably the best in my career. So for those 4 years in 2 different squadrons, 2 entirely different operations, that's where you get to mentor and lead and grow the next generation of folks that are going to come behind you. And so at Holloman Air Force Base is where I was the Comptroller Squadron Commander. I had a squadron of about 50 people. And we supported the Air Force's only F-117 wing there at Holloman Air Force Base. And then 2 years after that, I got the opportunity to go to basic training, which is where the 737 Training Support Squadron is. and I was a squadron commander at basic training. And I will tell you that there's just nothing more rewarding in the Air Force than being able to see 800 brand new airmen join our Air Force every single week. And to look in the stands and see their family members and their friends share in that joy with them, having known what they went through for the last 6 weeks when I was there and now 8 weeks. And so my responsibility when I was there is they were really trying to do some things with getting some more money in their budget so that they could extend basic training from 6 weeks to 8 weeks. And so the current commander at the time felt that they could really use someone that had a financial management background. And so they went to the command that owns basic training and said, is there anybody that we could get here to come be a squadron commander that has a financial management background? And so that's how I got that opportunity. And I was in charge of all of the resources at basic training, as well as all of the curriculum, all of the field training and warrior skills training that every airman that comes into the Air Force learns when they're there. And that was just a phenomenal experience. And so if you ever get the opportunity to go work at basic training, it is just a rewarding experience. And then I was at the Pentagon. That's what the Chief Flying Operations Branch is. And so I guess you could say I did well enough managing the Air Force's largest flying hour program at a major command that they let me do that for the entire Air Force. And so that's what I did while I was at the Pentagon. And you will hear varying things about the Pentagon as you go throughout your career. I will tell you that if you get the opportunity to work there, you take it in a heartbeat. Because there is no other place that gives you that breadth of what we do across the entire Air Force than at that job. And the types of things that you get to be involved with are just phenomenal. So we're responsible for building the Air Force budget that's going to go over to Congress, and they are going to approve it, and we're responsible for defending it. And so a lot of the information and the talking papers and the briefings and all of the work that goes along with being in the Pentagon, which makes it so arduous, as many of you will hear, go into what the Chief of Staff and what the Secretary of the Air Force will use to defend our budgets when they're testifying over to Congress. And so to get to be a part of someone who gets to put that information together and help them prepare and help them study, to go defend what we do in the Air Force, I think was just a terrific experience. The next one is the deploy job that I had while I was at the Pentagon for 6 months. I went over and worked in another office, the Office for the Administrative Review of the Detention of Enemy Combatants, and so that's the operation that we support now at Guantanamo Bay. I'm going to talk about that in one of the stories that I have here on the next slide. And then the next job that I did was the military assistance to the Air Force Auditor General. So many of you will get the opportunity to be an executive officer, and basically you're the person that manages all of the day-to-day activities and the schedules of a senior leader. And when you do that for another officer, that's called an executive officer. When you do that for a civilian, it's called a military assistant, which is typically what you have in the Pentagon. And so my boss was the Air Force Auditor General. He is responsible for all of the audit agency offices throughout the entire Air Force, both in the continental United States and overseas. And I was his, person that managed all of his day-to-day activities. So he was the senior executive service equivalent to a 3-star general. And it was just a phenomenal experience being able to work for him and then to get to travel with him as he went and visited all of the audit offices throughout the world. Then I got the opportunity to be the Director of Financial Management Comptroller at Arnold Air Force Base. That was the first time that I got to work with acquisition funding and acquisition programs. So down at Arnold, that is a test base. And so we do a lot of the wind tunnel testing and space chamber testing for a lot of the future things that we want to do with our weapon systems. We do rocket system testing there as well. So that was the first time that I got to really be a part of that type of our business. And that was an eye-opener in how we do that and why that part of our business is so important to the things that we are trying to do with our future weapon systems. And then just before the job that I'm in now, I was the budget officer at a major command headquarters at Air Force Materiel Command, and that's where I was during sequestration. And I will tell you that was, I thought that all of those jobs that you see above that line would have stretched me to my abilities. But the job at Air Force Materiel Command going through sequestration there, I think was the icing on the cake. And I think everything that I had learned throughout my entire career really culminated with that job and having to see the largest command of civilian employees through sequestration and the government shutdown and the furloughs, and to be able to help our force star there orchestrate the force and manage the force through that turmoil was just a significant challenge. And then that brought me to where I am now. So I get to, to take everything that I've done in my career and use it in the role that I have right now, where I work directly for the four-star, and I'm his financial advisor on anything financial, whether it's financial services, whether it's the budget, whether it's audit readiness, which is huge right now. I am his advisor in helping him see all of those things through to fruition. Next slide, please. Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to talk about is some of the tips that have really helped me throughout my career. I will tell you that I like to say that I've led a pretty sheltered life. So like many of you, I was a military brat, moved around a lot when I was a child. I went to 3 different junior high schools in 3 different states as my dad was transitioning through a couple different careers in about the middle part of my schooling. And I've moved 7 times by the time I started college. And I like to think that I turned out okay, despite all the moving around and going to different schools. And these are just a few of the things that I think of either I picked up along the way or I've gotten from somebody else that I've used as I've gone through my career. So the first one is, and they're not in any particular kind of order, but the first one is every day is a job interview. So I will tell you, as you're going throughout your career, you're going to have people that are going to be looking at your appearance, they're going to be looking at your performance, and they're going to be looking at your attitude every single day. And so you want to make sure that you're doing things to make those 3 things look in a positive way. So you all know that first impressions are positive. You want your first impressions to be a positive, lasting first impression. And there's going to be lots of times where people are going to pick up the phone. And in fact, in one of the roles that I'm in right now, we work with wing commanders to put squadron commanders at their installation, to place squadron commanders at their installation. And we're going through that process right now. And I had one of the wing commanders call me and say, hey, I heard some bad poop on this person that you're trying to give me to be a squadron commander. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Can you talk to some of the supervisors and the peers that this person has worked with? And so I did that, and I was able to, to kind of squelch some of that poop. But that's why it's very important that you don't want that to happen to you. You don't want to be coming up for a job and someone calls, this lieutenant says, hey, I thought you sat next to them at school. What can you tell me about them? And you have something negative to say. You want to make sure that there's always positive things to say, and that's why every day that you come to work, you come with your game face and you come ready to do the job the best that you can. And then you want to make yourself marketable. So everybody has different aspirations. There's going to be some of you that just want to stay 4 years and get out. There's going to be some of you that want to make it a career and then some, and they're going to have to kick you out. And what I will tell you is that's right. Whatever you want to do is right for you. But what I feel like my responsibility is as a senior leader is to grow you and to professionally develop you for whatever it is that you choose you want to do. So I want to give you the same leadership opportunities, the same professional development opportunities, the same financial management responsibilities and opportunities in the 4 years or the 2 years at a particular assignment that I might have you, because either that's going to benefit the Air Force in the long run, or it's going to benefit society if you choose to get out. And so I want to make you productive with whatever it is that you choose to do. And so that's why even if you only want to stay a little bit of time and get some education under your belt, that is okay. All of those things are helping you to grow and develop to become whatever it is that you want to do. The next thing I like to talk about is bloom where you're planted. And that's, kind of a cliche, but I will tell you, it is very, very true. So as you go through your career, you're not going to get to pick the locations that you want to go to. You're not going to get to pick the supervisors that you're going to work for. You're not going to get to pick peers that you work with, and you're not going to get to pick the subordinates that work for you. And so in a perfect world, all four of those things are going to be ideal and just be fantastic. But you're going to come across some assignments where one of those four things just is not ideal. But it's going to be incumbent upon you to perform to the absolute best of your ability, no matter if any of those four things are perfect or if they're all not perfect. And so the story that I like to tell here is that job that I did for the supporting Guantanamo Bay. So when I was at the Pentagon, I was a lieutenant colonel about to come up for promotion to colonel, and it was a Thursday. It was a Thursday, and something had happened. Somebody dropped the ball, and we had this deployment, 6-month deployment, that we had to go support over in another part of Washington, D.C. And I was the only one that was in the deployment rotation at that time because even though it was in Washington, D.C., it's considered one of our deployments, just like in Afghanistan. So I happened to be the person that was in the deployment bucket at the time, and so they told me that we need you to go report over there on Monday. So clean out your desk, turn over your work over to somebody else, and then go be at this other office on Monday. And so we didn't really know that much about that job at the time, but we had known that usually the people that we send over there are captains. That's about the level of the work and the types of responsibilities that job has. So I was, not happy at the time because I was really focused on learning the things that I wanted to learn at the Pentagon to be able to perform that role. But, we do what we do when we're asked to do something that's smartly and press on. So I reported over there on Monday. And then as I got into that job and learned what that responsibility was, so for those of you who might be working around the financial services office, where we are taking vouchers and sending them to the Air Force Financial Services Center for processing. That's basically what I did in that role and that job. So we had about 150 joint officers that were assigned in Washington, D.C., and we were responsible for putting together all of the government's evidence to support the tribunals against the detainees that were down in Guantanamo Bay. And so all of the folks were TDY from wherever their service was, Navy, Army, or Air Force. And we had about 1 or 2 Marine Corps folks. And so my responsibility was taking in their interim travel vouchers and getting them back to wherever the office was that was going to process their interim travel vouchers. As well as we were Navy funded there, so I was really just a liaison between our office and the office in the Pentagon that really managed their budget. And so I did that for 6 months. And I will tell you, I was not happy at the beginning, but I was thrilled when I left because as you all go through your Air Force career, I think one of the things that will become very evident to you, particularly if you get to work with another joint operation, is we take customer service seriously, and we are really focused on customer service in the Air Force. And that's not always the case in the other services. So these folks were TDY to Washington, D.C. They were staying in hotels, and so sometimes their hotel bills were like $6,000 a month. And it was not uncommon for some of the other services to take 4, 5, 6 months to pay an interim travel voucher. So a lot of those folks were having to take out loans in order to pay their hotel bill. They were having to put them on their personal credit cards. I mean, they were having to do all sorts of things to be able to make ends meet while they were waiting for their payment voucher to come back so that they could get reimbursed for their bills. And so I used that as an opportunity to try to make things better. And so we're very familiar with Defense Travel System. We use it all the time. And so we know that there is a function in there for scheduled partial payments where you can set up those payments automatically every 30 days. And so trying to sell the folks in the Pentagon and the Army and the Navy on using Defense Travel System was a bureaucratic nightmare. But I thought that it was important to go after that, and so that's what I did while I was there for that 6 months. And so by the time I left, when they were getting, when I got there, they were getting paid in 5 months. By the time I left, I had them on DTS. I had their partial payment set up, and then they were getting their payments in 3 days, and they weren't having to take out loans anymore in order to pay their bills. So it's all about knowing where you're planted. And so that wasn't a job that I asked to be in, but I knew that once I got there, I had to do whatever it took to perform the way that I know that I could perform, and that's exactly what I did. Next thing I like to talk about is you live in a fishbowl, so you've got to learn how to swim. So we are all ambassadors, and people in the community are looking at us and looking at what we do, looking at how we behave, and so it's very important that we have that good impression for all of our community partners, and even our partners that we have on base. And so people are always going to be looking at you, and they're going to be learning from you. And what I found is you're going to pick up good things that people do, and you're going to pick up bad things that people do. And so you're going to be working with folks, and you're going to say, you know what, when I get to be in that position, that's exactly how I want to do things and exactly how I want to be. And then you're going to see some folks, and you're going to say, you know what, when I get to be in that position, I don't want to do things that way, and that's not what I want to do. And that's really how you grow and develop and form the type of leader that you want to become, is by using all of those instances to develop who you are as a person. And then also people are going to remember the little things. And you don't always think about that until someone tells you something later on down the road. So the story that I like to tell about this one is when I was a brand new lieutenant, my first base was Hill Air Force Base. We had this airman that had got assigned there, and we were working in the travel section, and she was very, very close to her grandfather, and her grandfather passed away. And we all learned to be good wingmen. And so the types of things that we do, we just don't even think about. So when her grandfather passed away, we all sprung into action to get her to wherever she needed to go to. So, one person's looking for airline tickets, and one person is going to help her pack, and one person is trying to clean off her desk. And you just spring into action, and you don't even really think about it. So that's exactly what we did to get her on her way to go to the funeral. Well, I ran into her when I was a lieutenant colonel in Washington, D.C., and she was a tech sergeant, and she was going to be retiring soon. And she told me that she was writing a book. And I was like, oh, that's great, you're writing a book. And she's like, yeah, and you're going to be in my book. I was like, well, why would I be in your book? And she's like, well, one of the things that I talk about in my book is my grandfather. And I talk about how much you supported me in getting me to my grandfather's funeral so that I could be there with my family. And I said, that was really nothing. And she's like, you know what, it might have been nothing to you, but it was everything to me. And so those are the little things that really help to sustain you as you're going through your career. And it's, you don't think about it, you just do it, and it's incredibly important to somebody else. And then the next thing is working your boss's problems. So one of the things that I've always done in every job that I get in is, one, understand what my boss's vision is. And then I do some research to understand what my boss's vision is. So my boss's vision is Chief of Staff of the Air Force and Secretary of the Air Force. And so I'm constantly, reading speeches that they've given so that I can understand the types of things that they're interested in, so that I know what my boss is going to be interested in, and then I'm working towards those goals and taking care of those things so that he doesn't have to be concerned with those things. And then I always talk about knowing the difference between a mistake and a crime. So when you get to the point where you're have to be a squadron commander and you're responsible for discipline and maintaining good order and discipline and good morale within an organization, I will tell you that disciplinary action is the hardest thing that I have ever had to do. And I've had to do it on a lot of different occasions for a lot of different grades and ranks, military and civilian alike. And what I will tell you is making a mistake is a good thing, and that's how you learn and that's how you grow. And we can typically get past any kind of a mistake that somebody makes. There's some type of a way that we will be able to work through it. I will tell you it's not the same with a crime. There's just very little that I can do to help someone get through a crime other than just helping them work through the process, helping their family work through the process, making sure that we understand everything. That's really the best that I can do when somebody commits a crime. And so, discipline's not fun and it's not easy, but I will tell you it's important. And it's important for maintaining good order and discipline, and to ensure that everybody is maintaining the high standards that we expect them to maintain within the Air Force. And then the next thing I'd like to talk about is trust but verify. And the current Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force is General Larry Spencer, 4-star general, and he was also my major command comptroller when I was at Air Combat Command. So he was in the same position that I'm in today when I was a senior captain and a junior major. And one of the things that he taught me was trust but verify. And so he knew that when I came into his office, I wanted to give him the most accurate information that I could, depending upon the issue that we were talking about. And he knew that I didn't want to ever give him bad information. I just wanted everything to be perfect. And so you'd go into his office and you'd say, I'm going to know these 5 things. And then he'd ask you 10 things. You're like, so then you go back out, and then the next time you'd know 10 things. And then you go in and talk to him, and he's going to ask you 15 things. And that's how he helped you be able to grow and think past those initial things that you're going to naturally think about. And then it was not above him that if I came in and told him something, now we didn't have the contacts and outlets at that time. He had his little Rolodex. So he'd flip through his little Rolodex and he'd find, Colonel so-and-so. So I'd say, you know what, we talked to logistics folks and here's what they said. So he'd flip through his Rolodex and he'd find Colonel Logistics, and then he'd call Colonel Logistics and say, so I've got Regina in my office and she's telling me this, and so what do you think about that? And so I'm like, please say yes, please say yes. So that was his way of letting me know that he trusted what I was doing, but that he needed to verify what I was saying. Because if he's going to go and give that information to our 4-star at the time, who's going to make a decision about something that's going to infect the entire command, same as when I was at the Pentagon. If we're giving information to the Chief of Staff of the Air Force or the Secretary of the Air Force, and they're going to make a decision about how something is impacting the entire Air Force, that information has got to be right. And our leaders have to go and make some phone calls, do a little bit more research, see the regulation, whatever the case may be, to know that that information is the most accurate information. And I think sometimes people think of that as micromanaging, but I will tell you that it's not. And so that's what I expect every one of you to do, is you're going to trust your people, but when you're giving information to your senior leaders, you've got to make sure that information is right. And so you're going to have to go off and verify it, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. And hopefully you will educate your folks to know that it's not micromanaging. It's just making sure that we run all the traps and run all the wickets to make sure we're providing the best, most accurate information that we can. And then I feel like the toughest word to say is yes. So it's very, very easy to say no, because it's no, I'm not going to pay for that. No, I'm not going to process this. No, no, no. And then usually when you say no, you hope they go away and don't come back. Well, saying yes is hard, because yes normally means more research, more work, more time, more effort. And sometimes we don't want to put forth all of that extra work and time and effort when we're working an issue. But sometimes that's what you have to do. Sometimes helping people get to the yes answer, even though it's going to take more work and more time and more research, is the right thing to do. And that's why I think that's one of the hardest things to do, is because that's just frankly what people don't want. Sometimes you want to take the easy way, but I'm here to tell you that taking the easy way is not always the best way, particularly in the state of our financial affairs right now, where we have reduced budgets. You really got to dig in and find the answers to things more so now in this constrained resource environment than we have ever before. And then I like to talk about how everybody's role is important to the mission. So I don't know how it is now, but as I was coming up through the Air Force, I don't want to call it a rift, but there was certainly this dynamic between the operators, so your pilot, and then your support personnel. And one thought they were better than the other. And I think as I've gotten to be more senior and have the opportunity to work with a lot more folks in different career fields, I've really come to realize that everybody's role is important to the mission. And I think that people view our role as vital to the mission. So the decision support that we provide across the board, no matter what functional area, I think is what commanders are looking for. And you know, one of the opportunities that some of our financial managers get to do is go and be a mission support group commander at an Air Force base. And people like to have financial managers in those jobs because we know the business, we know the different missions of the base, because when you're supporting that, that's what you do is you come up. And they like to have financial managers in our way of thinking in those types of jobs. And that's why I say everybody's role is important. So our role is certainly important. The pilot's role is important. I certainly think that the pilot wants the maintainer to do their role to the best of their ability so the planes stay in the air. So certainly when you want to go to the dining facility and get something to eat, you want the services folks to be there cooking, so their role is important. And then the person's role that I think is really, really important is the person that just happens to clean our bathroom in our building, because I know that when I go to the restroom, I want to make sure I'm not going to come out with some sort of disease. And so I think that sometimes people seem to think that one person's job is better than the other person's job, and I'm here to tell you that everybody has a role to play, and everything that each person does is vitally important to executing the mission of the Air Force. And then having a positive attitude. So I certainly believe that that is a huge, huge force multiplier. And I think people will describe me as, you know, the glass is always half full. I'm always looking for the, you know, the glass-colored roses to make sure that if there's, you know, things are going to be bad. Sequestration was bad, for example, but we're looking for a way that we can get out of sequestration and keep the mission going. When you are working an issue and you're going to have people that are like negative Nellies, I'll call them, you know, you got to be able to rise up and look past the negativity and focus on what's positive, focus on the facts, try to be unemotional about it, and just really having that positive multiplier, that positive attitude. And I will tell you that will go a long way across an organization, because when people see you being positive, then they're going to be positive, and they know that things may not be going well at the time, but if we just keep a good attitude and keep pressing forward, we're going to get to where we need to be. And so I think the bottom line in everything that I've talked to you about today is success really is a choice. And so you can choose to not be successful, or you can choose to be successful. And so I hope that the things that I talked to you about today are not new to you. I hope that you will, if you're not already doing some of them, you will pick up a few more that you will use as you continue to progress through your career. And I just certainly wish you all the best of luck and the most success as you are continuing on your journey. So are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Ma'am.